Have you ever tried to explain something from your area to someone who's not from there and they just don't have a clue what you're talking about? You've said all the right words, but none of them are sinking into their head. That's where thick translation comes in to save the day, meaning that you can save yourself the pain of repeating yourself over and over again in the hope the person understands what you've said or wrote. Because with thick translation, the meaning behind your words comes to light. Let's use this Irish proverb as an example. Ní hé lá na gíthe lá na scollab. The windy day is not the day for thatching. Now, when you hear that, you might think, okay, it's about the wind and roofs, fair enough. But that's not necessarily the case. When we thicken the translation, we gain a deeper understanding of its meaning. In the words of Eileen O'Hullavain, the proverb is a wise reminder not to wait for a crisis to happen to make the changes necessary in our lives. Or in other words, there is no time like the present, which is an expression used to suggest that we should do something now rather than later. So, straight off the bat, we can see that by delving a little deeper into the meaning of the proverb, its true meaning is brought to light, and we now have a different level of understanding regarding the translation. So why go to all this effort? Why not just stick with the original translation? Well, if we look at the example again, people would misinterpret the meaning of the proverb, and they'd probably still be lost in terms of trying to understand what you were saying. In other cases, people might take offence when there was none meant. People might laugh when it's meant to be a serious moment. Or someone might miss out on hearing something that they really needed to hear because the heart of the message got lost in translation. Let's say you're translating an Irish blessing for a friend intralingually, meaning in the same language. For example, may those who love us, and those who don't love us, may God turn their hearts. And if he can't turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles, so we will know them by their limping. Now, if you don't explain to your friend that Irish blessings can often carry humour, sorrow and love all in one, well then they might get the wrong end of the stick and think, Jesus, that was a bit harsh. Why would you want God to hurt someone like that? But if you add a wee note, tell the story behind it, or explain how your grandparent used to say it and the context they used it in, well then now your friend feels what you feel. And it's important to remember that meaning is carried in a variety of ways. It's not just across words. And that's the beauty of thickening a translation. It helps build understanding and respect, and sometimes it builds friendships across cultures, which is part of the purpose of translation. So now, how does one thicken a translation? Well, if you're translating a text, the only real way to do so is to either leave a footnote or a comment in your writing, or to provide an explanation in the form of an email to the proofreader or the client. This is a very helpful way to explain any translation decisions that you have made if you think either the proofreader or the client may struggle to understand why you have translated the source text in a particular way. I would advise providing examples of scenarios of possible misinterpretation or what might occur as a result of not translating the text in the way that you did. Now, if you think that won't cut it, you can provide previously translated texts that either you or someone else has completed that helped avoid the scenario that you're referring to, or that has created a pain point that ideally the client would like to avoid. If you have a link to it and you're allowed to share it, that's even better. Now, if you're writing a blog, post, or a social media caption, you can also add comments in your writing. You can add a line or two to explain the meaning or the background of whatever it is that you're saying. Another way is to use a comparison of a familiar situation, as linking to something that the reader already knows about, to whatever it is that you're talking about, will help remove any confusion that the reader may have. Another way is to add a story. So instead of just writing words, explain where they come from, who used them, where they used them, and why do they matter. Now, if you're speaking to someone, I would advise to do so slowly and carefully. If you're explaining a local saying or a joke in conversation, pause and give them time to catch up. Because in that moment, you're not just talking to them, you're guiding them into a new world of understanding. Now, at this point, if you're not a translator, you might be thinking to yourself, well, this is all well and good, but when would I ever use this in real life? Well, the beauty of translation is that it doesn't always refer to writing texts in different languages, and it doesn't always refer to writing. For example, If you're changing thoughts into words to explain them to someone, that's translation. If you are explaining a local saying to a foreigner, let's say, that's also translation. If you are explaining the local gossip in a more concise way, that's translation. And even if you're explaining the meaning of a book to your child, that's also translation. Basically, if you are converting or transforming anything, may that be with words or not, you're in translation territory. And you can use any of the previous methods in any of the situations that I've just mentioned to add a little more information if whomever you're talking to is struggling to understand what it is that you're saying. So the next time you're sharing a joke, a poem, a story, or even a bit of banter, ask yourself, will they understand not just what I said, but what I meant? Do they fully understand the meaning behind the words? If not, you might need to thicken the translation.